When we press G, we get the look sensitivity option with the invert y-axis and invert x-axis. So to test this out, at the moment we're moving like that. We can turn this all the way down, something like this, moving extra slow. And we can also turn this all the way up, moving extra fast. And to test out the y and x-axis, let's turn these on, turn this down a little bit. We get something like that, and vice versa, now something like this. Hey there, I'm your host Zoe, and in today's video, we will create a look sensitivity slider with both the x and y-axis options. We'll also have a save system which keeps track of the look sensitivity throughout opening and closing of the game. So with that said, let's begin. Let's start with the controller setup. So for that, we'll go into the content drawer, open up the third person folder, inputs, actions. Let's right click to create a new input action, and we'll call it IA underscore toggle menu or toggle settings, whichever you prefer. And let's save it. Let's go back a folder to our IMC underscore default. And in here, we want to create a new mapping. So click on the plus, select your own input action, and then we want to select a key of our choice. I'll do G. Once happy, save and exit. Next, let's go ahead and open up the content folder again, and we want to create a new folder for our widget. So let's call it UI. Let's open this up, right click, user interface, widget blueprint, and we'll call it WB underscore settings menu. And we don't want to open it just yet, just save it. Next, let's go ahead and set up the controller. So back to the content folder, third person, blueprints, and let's right click, go into blueprint class and select player controller. We'll call it BP for blueprint underscore PC player controller underscore main. Now once created, it's a good idea to first assign it to our player character. So to do that, on our right hand side, we have world settings. Now if you don't see this, click on settings, click on world settings, and now you should. Scroll down until you see game mode. Selected game mode, click on the drop down, and we're interested in our player controller class. So let's switch it from the default to our own. Once that's done, let's go ahead and open up our controller. Now inside of the event graph, we want to create three functions. Our first function is going to be toggle settings menu. And we want two more for showing and hiding our mouse. So we'll do show mouse and hide mouse. Let's double click on the toggle settings menu and create some logic. So drag out from the execution pin and do create widget. And in here, we want to select our WB underscore settings menu widget that we created. Drag out from the blue pin, promote to a variable, call it WB underscore settings menu. And just like so, we want to then add it to our screens. So we'll do add to viewport. And with that, before we go ahead and do all of this, we want to check if this reference is actually valid. So drag it out to a get, right click, convert to a validated get. Now, if it does exist, we don't want to create it. We only want to create it if it doesn't exist. So drag out from the blue pin and do remove from parent, which will remove it from our screens. And if it's not valid, we'll then go ahead and create it. And with that, we also want to clear this reference. So drag it out to a set, completely blank. And now we also want to show our mouse. So if it gets hidden, we want to hide the mouse. And if it gets created, we want to show the mouse. So all that's left is to create logic inside both of these. So let's go to show mouse. We'll do get player controller. And we'll do set show mouse cursor to be true. We want to show it. And then to set the game mode. So we'll do set input game and UI. And game and UI will just allow us to move around while having the settings open. Double click, drag down, press Q to align, compile and save. And let's open up the hide mouse function. Fairly similar, we'll do get player controller. We want to check if this is valid, because when the game is closed, this will come out as not existent, so we'll get an error. Then we'll do set show mouse cursor again, leaving this blank because we want to hide it. And lastly, just set the game mode. So set input game only. And just double click on everything, align it, and there we go. Compile and save. Now the final thing to do to test this is to call our toggle settings menu function. So for that, we'll head over to the event graph. And in here, we want to call the input action we made. So IA underscore toggle menu. In my case, click on your dropdown, drag out your toggle settings menu function, and on started, we'll play it. So let's compile and save. Make sure to double check that your controller is the correct one. Play. And when we do, we should press G, have our mouse on the screen, and vice versa, it's hidden. Next, let's go ahead and open up the controller once again. And in here, we want to create two functions. So we'll do custom event. Let's call it toggle y-axis invert. And we'll create the x-axis invert as well. So right click, custom event, and we'll call it toggle x-axis invert. And with that done here, we want to grab a branch. And if it's true, we want to create a new variable. So the variable will be called y-axis value. We want to make it a float. And we'll simply do a set. Now, if it's true, we'll have this as -1 to invert the value, and then simply 1, have it positive. And we'll do the same for our x-axis. So branch, create a new variable called x-axis value. Drag it out to a set this to be -1 on true, copy paste, and set it to 1 on false. Now for the condition, we need to create two variables. So we'll have our y-axis, change this to a boolean, create another one, x-axis, y-axis goes here, and our x-axis goes here. And let's compile and save. Next, let's go ahead and open up our third-person character. So let's close this down. Go to content drawer, third-person character. And in here on the event graph, let's go to functions, create a new function called get main PC. So getting our main player controller. Let's right click and do get player controller. And we want to cast to whatever we call this. So cast to BP PC main. Let's promote it to a variable to have. We'll call it BP PC main. Took me a while. And then we'll do a return. We can just return it here as the output. And let's compile and save. We then want to connect this code at the end of our event begin play. So right here. So get your function and connect it. Next, let's go ahead and create another variable called look sensitivity. And we want this to be a float. And let's compile to assign it a default value. So we can do something like 0.5. And let's compile and save. With that done, we then want to open up our third-person character. So let's close that down, go to content drawer, third-person character. In here on the event graph, let's go to our functions, create a new function called get main PC. So get main player controller. We'll do right click, get player controller, and we want to cast this to whatever we called it. So cast to BP PC main. Just like so, let's promote this to a variable for a reference. So BP PC main. And we can also return it, because why not? And let's compile and save. With this done then, let's close that down, and we want to add it at the very end of the event begin play, so that this reference actually exists. So drag your function and add it. Next, we'll go ahead and change the camera input. So click on your box, drag it out for some space. And we can bring this up and stretch these guys out. So to start things off, let's get our controller reference, and we want to get the look sensitivity. With that, we want to then, let's get the X value, multiply it. So multiply, and break those two. So Alt and left click to break the chain. So we want to multiply this by that, and we'll also multiply it by the Y value. Then we want to go ahead, get the controller again, and do get X-axis value. We'll do the same with our Y-axis. Get Y-axis value. And we'll further multiply it. So we'll do this and do multiply node by this one here. You can actually align them. And then our Y value. So it goes into the top, and this goes into the bottom. Align that. Doesn't really matter where it goes. And then this goes here, and this goes there. Double click, drag it down, press Q to align. Just makes it look a little nicer, in my opinion. You can drag this out and put it back in place. And that's our code done. Looks good to me. And there we go, like nothing happened. Compile and save. Next, we'll go ahead and create the button for our menu. So let's head to the content drawer, open up the UI folder, right click, create a new widget, and we'll simply call it WB_button. And let's open that up. Inside, we'll add a normal button, and we'll also add a text to it. For the button, click on it. We'll change the name to simply say button. You can change the background color to be 0 on A, to be invisible. And for the button, we can rename it to txt_text. And make sure it's variable because we want to be able to edit it in the event graph. Let's compile and save. And let's go ahead and open up the event graph. Inside here, click on your functions. The first function will be set text color. And here we want to grab the text reference and do a set color and opacity. And from this, we'll do a make slate color, returning the specified color into our function. And that's that. Let's compile and save. For our next function, we'll go ahead and call this set text settings. Now in here, all we'll do is set the text. Well, of course, you can change the font, size, and all that. We'll do set text, like so, and just return our text. And let's compile and save. For our next function, we'll go ahead and call this the update button status. In here, we want to get our set text color, do a select color in here. Your Boolean, plug that into your function, change the name to isActive. And basically, if this is active, we want the color to be, for example, white. And if it's not active, we'll make it like slightly grayish, almost dark. Hit OK and compile and save. In the event graph, we now want to go ahead and add those functions. So let's add set text settings. And we're doing it on pre-construct so that we can see it being edited in real time. And then we'll do update button status. We can get rid of event construct and event tick. And those two parameters that you see, we want to promote to variables. So we'll do default text as the name and make sure it's instance editable so that we can actually edit it. And the same goes for isActive. IsActive and instance editable. Oops. And let's compile and save. Next, click on your button and do onClicked. So in here, we'll create a new event dispatcher called onButtonClicked. like so. And we want to call it like that. And for good measure, we can also add a play sound effect if you'd like, sound effect 2D. And let's compile and save. Next, let's go ahead and edit our settings menu widget. So let's open that up. Inside, we'll start with a canvas panel. So drag that in. On top of that, we can have a blur, background blur, drag it on and drag it underneath. Go to anchors, and while holding down Control and Shift, click on the big one until snap in place. For blur, let's do something like 4. Next, we'll get a border, drag it into your canvas panel. Again, go to anchors, hold down Control Shift, click on the middle one, and it'll snap. Now for size X, I found 900 by 240 to work well, so I'll stick with that. For brush color, I'll make this invisible, so 0 on the alpha channel. With that, we then want to grab a vertical box. So padding will set to 0. And inside this, we want a horizontal box. So we want a horizontal box like so. To divide left and right, we'll do fill. And that's fine for now. And inside this, we'll grab a vertical box, drag it on, and copy paste to drag another one on. Select both and do fill. Click on your horizontal box to add or remove padding. I'll do 5, perhaps. On our vertical box, on the left one, we want to reduce the size. So let's do 0.5. And in here, then, we want to add in our texts. So search for text, drag 3 instances of it. So Control-C, Control-V, select all of them, padding 20, and do fill. Click on the top one. We don't need to make them a variable or anything like that, so don't worry. And we'll do look sensitivity. Then we'll do invert y-axis. And we'll do invert x-axis. And looking pretty. Now on our other box, we want to add a little more. In here, we want to add a horizontal box to align them horizontally again. We want 3 instances of that. So do Control-C, Control-V, select both 3 boxes to fill with padding of 20. And there we go. On our top box is where we want the slider with the text. So let's go ahead and add a slider to this. Now this slider, the name is important, so we'll just call slider look sensitivity. And we want to fill it. And that's looking okay. Then for the text, let's grab the text, drag it into our horizontal box with the slider. We'll do fill. Let's do 0.2. For the text, we'll just say 0.5, 0.5 maybe looks nice. And we want this to be centered on the horizontal alignment, like so. And for padding, let's leave it blank, but the text is important. So make sure it's variable, and we'll call it txt underscore look sensitivity. And there we are. How is it looking? Looking cool. For our slider, we can do our minimum value to be 0.1. So we actually still can move if it's on the lowest value. Max can stay at 1, and our default value will just do 0.5. And that's that. Next, for our 2 horizontal boxes at the bottom, let's grab a button that we made. So button, WB underscore button, drag it twice. So Control-C, Control-V. We can rename it to our button underscore Y axis underscore on. And we can do button underscore Y axis underscore off. And let's do exactly the same for our X axis. So we can Control-C, Control-V, and just change the y to x, delete the 1, change that to x, delete the 1, and now just put in some names. So here we have default text, we'll do on. And we can also check it to be active, so we can see it changing color. And we have our other one, say off. And the same here. So with this done, we'll actually come back to the event graph, but right now we'll start creating the save system. So let's go ahead. Let's open up the content drawer and go to content. Let's create a new folder called save system. And let's open it up. In here, we want to right click, go to blueprint class, click on all classes and find a save game. Select and do SGB for save game blueprint underscore settings. Save it, open it. And in here, we want to create 3 variables. Our first variable for the look sensitivity and 2 more for the x-axis and y-axis. And let's change the look sensitivity to be a float. You can compile that and give this a default value of 0.5, compile and save. Next, we'll go ahead and create a game instance. And the reason for that is all of the data we save is going to be persistent throughout the game and our levels. So let's change or look for game instance. There we go. And we'll call it BP underscore GI underscore main. So that stands for blueprint game instance main. And once created, it's a good idea to assign it to our game. So we'll go to settings, project settings, click on maps and modes, change the default one to your own. Once that's done, we can go ahead and open up our game instance. Inside here, let's start by creating a custom function. So custom event, and we'll call it load game. And with that, we want to drag out and do does save game exist. We can promote this to a variable. We'll call it our settings slot. And if we compile, we can assign a value. So I'll just call it slot1. With that done, then we'll grab a branch. And if it doesn't exist, we want to create it. So we'll do create save game object, SGB underscore settings, or whatever you called it, and promote it to a variable SGB underscore settings. Like so. On true, we want to do a load game from slot. Assign your variable settings slot. And we'll do cast to SGB settings. And then we'll promote it to a variable. So Control C, Control V. And we're done with that. Let's then grab a event initialize, so event init. And we want to call this at the start of our game. So load game. And there we go. Compile and save. Next, we'll go ahead and create another custom event, calling it save settings. So in here, we want to do a save game to slot. Put in your SGB underscore settings and the slot name settings slot. Then we can do a branch, and just for good measure, we can do a print string, letting us know the game has been saved. So save, or rather the settings. Settings saved. Compile and save. Next, we'll go ahead and create another custom event for the save look sensitivity. And in here, we want to grab our SGB underscore settings, do set look sensitivity, drag your pin, drag it to your custom event. And at the very end, we want to save this. So we'll just call this event here. Save settings. Let's go ahead and repeat this process twice more for the X and Y axis. So custom event, save X axis, and Control C, Control V, and we'll do save Y axis. So we'll grab the SGB, do set x-axis, drag your pin into the event, and we'll save settings. And exactly the same for y, set y-axis, drag your pin, connect it, and save settings. And then we can compile and save. So since we're done here, we can close this down and open up our settings widget. So let's go to UI, settings menu, and let's go to the event graph. Let's go ahead and create a function called get settings. So in here, what we want to do is we'll do get game instance. Go ahead and cast to our game instance that we made. And then we want to promote this to a variable. So pp_gi_main. With that, we want to then from here do a get SGB settings. Convert it to a validated get, just in case it's valid or not. And if so, we'll do promote to variable SGB_settings. And let's compile and save. Next, let's go ahead and create another function called get main PC. So get our main player controller, right click, get player controller, and we'll cast to our player controller, PC main. And we want to promote to variable pp_PC_main. And let's compile and save. Our next function then is going to be called set slider look sensitivity. And we're making all of these functions so then we can just throw them in on the event graph. And with that, we'll grab our SGB settings. Here we'll do get look sensitivity. And we want to get our slider. So where did that go? Here we go. And we'll do set value to whatever our look sensitivity is. Like so. And let's compile and save. Next, we'll go ahead and create a function called toggle x-axis. So in here, we want to get our player controller and we want to set x-axis. So drag your Boolean to the function to create an input, and we'll then do toggle x-axis invert that's in the controller. So you can also align this. Oops. There we go. And we'll grab a branch to check if it's true or false. We then want to grab our button for x-axis on and off and simply do update button status. So we can Control-C, Control-V. If it's on, that means we want it to be on, and off is off. And then we want to do vice versa if it's false. So like that there, and just switch these around. And let's compile and save. We want to do the exact same for our y-axis. So let's go ahead, create a function, toggle y-axis. In here then we'll grab the PC main and do set y-axis. Again, your input goes there, your Boolean. We'll then do toggle y-axis invert. Double click, oops. And we'll grab a branch, check if this is true or false, and we'll get our y-axis off and y-axis on. Let me just double check I didn't mess this up. That's x-axis, yep. And we'll do update button status. So if it's on, true, if it's off, it's off. And then Control-C, Control-V, and just switch it around. And let's compile and save. Next, we'll go ahead and create a function called setAxisButtons. So in here, we'll grab our SGB settings. do get x-axis, get y-axis, and we want to toggle both the x and the y-axis. This goes there, and this goes there. And there we go. Let's compile and save. So we have all of the functions created. Now we just need to add them in. So on the event graph, let's remove construct and event tick. On pre-construct, then we'll get the settings. Oops, not this one. Get settings function. We'll get our controller because we want the variable to exist. We'll set the slider look sensitivity. And at the very end, we'll set the axis buttons. So that's that. Next, we'll click on our slider and want to do on value changed. Now for this, we actually need another function. So let's go ahead and create it. We'll call it set look sensitivity. We'll grab the PC main and we'll do set look sensitivity. Connect like so. Input goes to function. We'll then do, let's see, txt look sensitivity. Grab your text, set text all the way at the bottom. Let's do, if we drag these, it should format it. There we go, it does. And then at the very end, we can just return the look sensitivity. And let's compile and save. Back inside of our event graph, we can grab our set look sensitivity function and connect it, so. And if we grab our game instance, we can go ahead and then save it. So save look sensitivity. And there we go, have the output, very handy. Next for our buttons. So click on your x-axis on, clicked, on clicked. We can do the same with y-axis, on clicked, on button clicked, actually. And we can call the functions. So next we can go ahead and toggle our x-axis true and false. And vice versa, we toggle y-axis on and off. And let's compile and save. Just before we go and test this, I did that myself and a few things were not working. So let's fix those. Let's grab the game instance and do save x-axis. We want this to be true. And we can copy paste and set this to be false. And the same with y-axis. So save y-axis. We'll do true for you. And we'll do false for you. Another thing, let's go ahead and open up the set look sensitivity. And in here, this gives you 3 digits. Now, if you want a percentage, you probably want 2. So just change it to 2. Next, if you go ahead and play it, you might notice you can't move around with your mouse. That's because I never actually set a default value in the controller. So blueprints, player controller, y-axis, set this to be 1. And x-axis, set this to be 1. Compile and save. Now if we go to play, we should be able to move around. Press G, we get the slider, and adjust it to be higher. And it is. And adjust it to be lower. And it also is. Now for the y-axis, and x-axis works. And it saves. And voila. So there is one more thing that we need to do, which I missed, and that is to update the values in the player controller. Otherwise, our stuff will only be updated once we open up the menu. So we need to fix that. Let's go into the content drawer and open up our player controller. And in here, we want to create 3 functions. The first one, we want access to our game instance. So let's do get GI. And we want to do get game instance. Pass to our game instance, which we made. There we go. And let's promote this to a variable. BP GI main. And let's also get the SGB settings and promote that to a variable. SGB settings. And there we are. So let's compile and save. Our next function then we want to call set camera settings. And in here, we want to set our look sensitivity, our y-axis, and our x-axis. So set, not get. Hold Alt and drag to set it. Grab a sequence node, so S left mouse. And we can create an extra pin and just have it nice like this. After we do the setting, we want to toggle the y-axis so it gets updated, and toggle the x-axis so it gets updated. Now the values for this will come from the SGB settings. So grab it and do get look sensitivity, get y-axis, and get x-axis. And just plug it all in like so. Tidy it up. There we go. Compile and save. And one more function, load camera settings. Now this is just to confirm that the save game exists. If it does, load it. If it doesn't, don't do anything. So we'll grab our game instance, get settings slot, do does save game exist. If it does, we load it, branch the left mouse. Whoops. On true, we load camera settings, and on false, we set the camera settings, and on false, we do nothing. So let's compile and save. And we need to add two of these functions to our begin play. So right click, begin play, get our game instance reference, so get GI, and then load camera settings. And there we have it. Compile and save. And let's go ahead and test this. So when we play the game, stuff should be inverted, and it is. I feel it. Turned off. It's back to normal. And let's try again. Yeah, it's inverted. So there we are. So this is it for the video. I hope you enjoyed. And if you did, leave a like. And as always, happy developing.